How's it going, guys? Welcome back to another video, and I'm going to do a little follow-up on my last one because boy, did that get some reaction. Oh my god. Yeah, I made some comments, I shared my thoughts on a lot of things, on what is probably the biggest, point of discussion in Ireland at the moment now. You know what it is. So anyway, the video got a crazy amount of interaction, like shockingly high levels of comments. I couldn't believe it. Overwhelmingly in agreement, mostly. And then you've sort of a few people that are indifferent. But then, of course, you have the people who are in total disagreement and doing they're the ones then that are sort of doing the name calling as always, Oh yeah. Yeah, like everything else then I could reply to the people in agreement, but it's usually the squeaky wheels that gets the oil first. So I want to sort of not so much defend my opinions and my thoughts, but I kind of want to just clarify a few things, because I think a lot of people are sort of in the dark a little bit. I think there's a little touch of naivety going on, and there's a certain percentage of people here in Ireland that just don't get it. It sounds bad, but they're kind of living a lie. So let's get a bit of a walk on here and let's get deep into the trees because it's very windy here. I mentioned South Asia, and when I mentioned South Asia, I kind of was thinking of, India, Bangladesh, and of course Pakistan, which is a fair chunk of people. Now, some people were laughing at me like this is the way the leftist mind works. If you say you're friends with, people from Pakistan or something, they laugh at you. It's like when you say, oh, I have friends that are black people. In other words, it's like you're trying to say that you're not a racist. So they immediately laugh at that, even though it's coming from a genuine place. So, it's not the people, right? Yes, the health system is very much reliant now on people from South Asia. There's a huge amount working in the health system and all that. And we're killed repeating that, saying how if we didn't have these people, we'd be screwed. But my argument is, why did it have to get to that? Why did we end up in this small island up in the North Atlantic where all of a sudden we wouldn't be able to manage, only for people from this part of the world, that's the opposite part of the planet, happen to come here to prop up our health system. In other words, we'd be fried without them. And if you go to their part of the world, like their countries, I haven't been to India or Pakistan, but the standards aren't brilliant. Do you know what I mean? So I'm kind of saying to myself, how is it that they're helping us when we were kind of doing okay all along, up as far as the 90s and the early noughties? I don't remember having difficulty getting a doctor or a dentist back then. It's a different story now. So I'm just saying, how have we arrived at that? We're sending away an awful lot of brainy, quite smart people out of Ireland because they feel like there's nothing here for them. And then we're bringing in people to replace them from another part of the world where, I'm going to be honest, the standards are very different. So now, some people are saying that crime hasn't risen from immigration, right? This is a lefty talking point, that how dare you even suggest that? But my argument is, when you're bringing in people from parts of the world such as, the Middle East and, how's it going? Say Nigeria, for example. Like if you go to Nigeria tomorrow, if you go to Lagos, there's some amazing people there. There's a lot of nice Nigerian people, of course. I'm not saying there isn't, but it's a frightfully dangerous country. The levels of crime there are just abhorrent. Not everywhere, but it's a different setup entirely in comparison to Ireland. So to think that everybody that just comes into Ireland is going to have, is going to be complete pacifist and not raise the crime in any way, it's incredibly naive. Are people that emigrate from these places, are they maybe the best out of their bunch? I don't know, maybe they are. I do think that generally people that leave a country and know that they'll get on better elsewhere, I do think that generally that would be, we'll say, a sign of maybe more intelligence than people who stick around. I don't know. They've said that about the famine, that maybe Ireland had a bit of a brain drain during the famine. But around the time Aisling Murphy was murdered, you know, you get in the habit of seeing the news. There was 2 other women murdered around shortly after that in Ireland. There was a girl murdered down in Cork, and there was a girl murdered in Limerick. And both of those stories got very little coverage on the news for 2 reasons. The first one being Aisling Murphy's death was, you know, recent, I think, and that might have still been getting attention. And then also, the murder of the girl in Cork, I do believe she was Brazilian, and her murderer was also Brazilian. And then the murder of the girl in Limerick. Now, don't quote me on this, I'm not fully sure, and feel free to correct me. But I think she might have been, you know, an adult worker. And I think her murderer was a Muslim guy. So that wasn't given much coverage for some reason. It just kind of came into the news, but it went as quick as it did. There was no, like, it literally got a fraction of the, like, we're talking 1% of the attention that Aisling Murphy did, which again proves to me that even though we'll say like that we're blessed with diversity, and the more people that from all around the world that come here will grace us with brilliance and will be a better country for it, I still think that there's an in-group preference, and if you see something happening to an Irish child or an Irish woman or man or whatever, it does still get more attention. So that girl, that story recently, now people are telling me, oh, there's no more crime. So I'm going, right, 2 weeks ago, maybe just over 2 weeks ago, a little 8-year-old girl lost her life at the hands of a nutcase from, you know, somewhere in the Middle East, who's a follower of Islam. An abhorrent attack. And the way the news pushed it, that she was caught up in a, you know, violent ordeal. She was set upon deliberately in murders, as far as I'm concerned. You don't, even a child doesn't just die from somebody attacking somebody else. She was deliberately murdered in a fit of rage. That's what I'm saying. I could be wrong. So you had that, and then only a year ago, we also had on the streets of Dublin an absolute nutcase again from, you know, a follower of Islam, and he set upon as many children as possible. I mean, I don't know, I'm not going to use the word that he did. His intention was to try and take the lives of as many kids as possible. That's as far as I'm concerned. Now, if you look at the news, like, you know, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but like if you read the names, like, I mean, Jesus Christ, I mean, if you have any level of logic, unless you're the most woke liberal lefty with your head deeply buried in the sand in the fashion of that of an ostrich, you just can't help but, like, for fuck's sake, can you not wake up and smell the coffee? Now, I worked in Dublin a few times, right? And I'm not going to mention any lads, but I have had to work with guys who were used to working on the streets. And a couple of years ago, we had to work very early in the morning. I won't say who the guys were working with, but these guys are used to being around the town, and they were just saying how Dublin is shockingly violent. And this is going back a couple of years ago. Now, they're not saying it's an immigration thing, and I'm not saying that. I've had a couple of small little things, even recently in Dublin. I just had a bit of a scare. I won't go into it, but it was an Irish guy, okay? I'm going to say that. So certain people are saying that I'm blaming the increase in violence on immigrants. I don't think it's an immigrant, solely an immigrant thing. I think that, especially in Dublin, that there's a bit of an issue with crime, okay? I was also accused of just singling out videos in which, you know, migrants might be attacking people. For example, like that iPass centre up the country in which, you know, policemen were getting battered by some guy, and there was other migrants just looking on. I thought the optics of that were pretty bad. Yeah, I do see that stuff on my feed, but I also see the other stuff. You know, I was watching, you know, a gang of Dublin, you know, little shitheads on motorbikes and e-bikes terrorising the Gardaí. I think there's an awful problem with that. And I will say one thing, you know, and I see this happening, like, and you know, if you are concerned about the demographic shift in Ireland and how Ireland is ultimately going to be changed forever, I mean, come on, don't side with the yabos, okay? Keep it classy. I've seen some videos, there was a video came up of some curry house takeaway, and Irish lads just giving abuse to the lad, the guy from South Asian guy serving him. I don't know where he's from, and I don't like that. I don't like seeing people supporting that. Yeah, give it to him, or I hate that. That really, I despise that. I hate racism. I hate singling out somebody, and I've seen it because of their race. Okay, it's not the way to go about something, and it's not nice. And I just think that, especially with the riots that ensued after, we'll say, the attack there on Parnell, was it Parnell Street? Parnell Square, last November 2023, the riots that happened. There was an awful crowd involved in that. There was a lot of sort of good-for-nothing street hooligans who have nothing else to do, low IQ, low intelligence. And yeah, that is the wrong way to deal with anything like that. So I'm not, you can label all you want, but don't label me in agreement, because that is not true. And when you get comments, when you do a video as well, when I do a video and it gets this big a reaction, you're going to have all sorts in the comments. So this is what people do. The left love to just label you as the same as, we'll say, the person commenting. If somebody has got extreme views in the comments on your video, that just means then that you're one of them, which is total bullshit. That's like saying, okay, Hitler uses, toilet paper. You use toilet paper, you must be Hitler. It's completely wrong. I just think that with the whole thing in Ireland, I think it's going to be a case of, the end of a nation because of naivety, really. Like, people are sort of, if you express an opinion on how Ireland has changed, they'll straight away, you're going to get called out. Oh, now hold on a second. Ireland, the Irish emigrated everywhere. We left in droves, and only for we were taken in, we were, looked after. We'd have been screwed. So, right, that's a fair point. A couple of million of us left when we were famine-stricken back in the 1800s. And yeah, we've continued to emigrate. I feel that personally we kind of emigrated to... Firstly, we're a small country emigrating to big lands, okay? And we went all around the world, but when I say all around the world, I mean east coast of America, England, maybe a little bit of Canada, maybe a little bit of Europe, a bit of Australia. But the lion's share was England and America, east coast of America. So that's the all around the world, really. English settlements abroad, really, when you think about it. When the Irish did go away, and emigrate, and we are still emigrating. I think there's a few tens of thousands of us leaving every year. Mostly, yeah, okay, Dubai is a new location, let's be honest. Okay, the Middle East, it's a Muslim country. Yeah, it's seen now that we need to maintain an open border policy, that it would be very two-faced of us to say, hold on a second, we've enough people here. It's, when people of South Asian origin, India, mostly Pakistan, came to England, we'll say back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, it was largely because of, the connection with the Commonwealth. I mean, look at the English establishment in India. It's hard to not expect people from India to come to England. But now what's happening is you have Ireland's government just saying, right, everybody needs to live here. And we're just going, what? Why do we need to do this? Why do we need to expand the country so much? Just look at what it's doing to the housing. And we'll have this conglomerate going, we need to build more houses. Build more houses. But let's be honest, it's this guy's just looking at me. It's going to do my head in if I catch up with him with the camera. So it's basically, what do we do? Just keep building 150 houses every year? Is that just the plan? We'll just keep doing that? let's turn Donegal into just one massive housing estate to cater for our growing population. So what's grown the Irish population entirely is immigration into Ireland, not birth rate, not our own birth rate. So year upon year, we are going to be less of a percentage of the people. So all I'm saying is that it's just, that's fine and it's well and good. And if we need to prop up our economy, and if we need to keep our health system on the road by bringing everyone in, then okay, fair enough. But that's just shown that we weren't really good at that stuff. Like, how did we manage all along? Because I can remember back to the 80s and the 90s, and you know what? It was kind of nice. I don't remember it being that bad. We played golf. My family, my dad was a guard. We had a fishing boat. We used to fish. We used to have, every house on my street was sort of a blue-collar worker. There was, corporation workers with houses on my street, carpenters, factory workers with houses, Now it's completely unattainable. You've doctors that are getting turned down for mortgages. You've couples that have, they're slaving away as they put their 2 or 3 kids into childcare so they can work and get a couple of grand together to get an average house. It's a struggle. And we've seen it with the rental market, it's crazy. It's so unattainable to get a place. I looked at a house recently. Every now and again I'll go on Daft just to check in. And I saw a house in Knocknacarra, and it was a 4-bedroom house. It was on the market for 3,600. Now, it was a nice house, but the living room was very howy. It was quite a small living room. It was a nice house, I will say that, but I thought back to 20 years ago when I rented a house, a brand new standalone house in an estate. It was 4 bedrooms and it had a massive garage. It had a big garden, and we were the first tenants in there. And it was a beautiful house. Now, it was in an estate similar to the one I was looking at, we'll say in Knocknacarra, and that was €950, which at the time seemed like a lot. So there was €950 in 2004, and the same house today pretty much is 3,600. So if you for a second say that that's inflation, whatever, but if you cannot deny that that's supply and demand, it's a supply and demand thing. So we're just letting in so many people into the country that the cracks are showing like this. You can call me names all day long, and you can label me this, label me that. But one thing you can't label me as hating people for coming to Ireland, because that is not true. Anyone that's friendly to me, I'm friendly back to them. And I'd like to say as well that people love to think that you have a problem. The left love to think that you're singling out, people who aren't white, basically. What they don't understand is that it's not a nationality thing. It's just an Irishness thing. It's not a race thing by any means. In Dublin recently, again, the amount of Slavic accents that I heard was unbelievable. There's days when I go to the playground and we're the only English-speaking people there. When you have a young lad that's kind of learning off other kids, and the other kids are just speaking their native tongue to the parents, your child doesn't sort of pick up on the random sayings, and they don't kind of interact as much. Now, that's not always true. I've seen little Polish, there was 2 of Polish kids lately, completely brilliant with my son, and the same with, I've seen Japanese kids as well. It's not always, I'm not saying that it is. It's a variety, but there's a lot of days when I go to the playground and there's very little interaction on all parties, because there's English is just not spoken. And I know people say, well, you shouldn't be speaking English anyway. Well, you know what we do? We speak English because it's our native language. Simple as that, right? And some of us aren't, exactly brilliant at starting to learn a language again. And you know what? Maybe I am trying to learn a bit of Irish, right? Just with the whole, shall we say, multicultural thing in Ireland. they'll have a go at you for saying, okay, you're mentioning the fact that your town is beginning to look like somewhere that isn't in Europe, I'll be honest. But let's say, for example, if Germany had a big thing with sending Germans to Ireland, I think that a lot of the people calling us names wouldn't be happy. They only want it to be from certain parts. And you'll see this with, Spanish places, Spanish towns and stuff. Oh, the amount of English. Oh, you might as well be in a shitty little northern town somewhere in the north of England. It's a crap hole. They've ruined the place. You'll get that a lot. You'll see that said a lot. So they'll defend the people from the third world coming here, and they will enrich the place. But if it was Americans coming here, if it was Germans coming here to work, definitely not Israelis and Russians, they can't come in. It's only certain places that can enrich us, and most of those are outside Europe. Like, we're not getting that many Scandinavians into Ireland. I don't think the place is going to actually be that diverse in a few decades' time, if I'm going to be honest. So the bottom line is that based on the last 15 to 20 years, what we've seen in Ireland, that same change again, which will bring us up to about, we'll say, 2045, it's going to be absolutely crazy in terms of the difference it's going to make. It's just going to be unbelievable. So the children that we have today, when they're in their 20s, they are going to be a complete minority as far as I'm concerned. And the feeling of Irishness and what we once had here is going to be completely gone. There's no easier way to say it than that. And some of us are cool with it. Some of us love that idea. I'm not in that group. Some of us are fine with a certain amount of change, but we just want to hold on to a little bit of what we had. Because you know what, I don't think that the 90s Ireland and even the 80s Ireland was this hellhole that some people like to say it was. I think it was kind of nice, actually. Anyway, I have to get out of here. My plumber is calling. Thanks for watching.